Welcome to Roxtalks, the podcast that helps network marketers grow their business on social media. Why was that so hard for me to say today? Because today that's not what we're going to be talking about. And I really struggled with this because you know that I'm really big on knowing your brand. And my brand in this podcast is about growing your business on social media. And so to take a pause, I hope you realize I'm like, is it okay for me to talk about this big thing that has been affecting all of us? And then I realized that it is because my brand is me. And for me not to talk about what's happened in the US of A, the world really over the last couple of weeks would be for me to not recognize and identify who I am. And so we're going to take a pause from talking about all things network marketing and all things social media and talk about what happened with George Floyd, but more importantly, the result and the ripple effect, as well as what has been going on for years. I hope you'll take a listen. Now, just so you know, when I heard what happened, I have not watched the video, and I'm going to guess by the time you listen to this, I still haven't watched the video because I just know myself, and I don't need to watch the video to have feelings and emotions about it, and it would wreck me. As it should wreck everyone. So what I'm telling you is this. After I got past the sadness, I don't know if you ever get past it, but after I dealt with the sadness, my phone and my DMs were all blowing up with people wanting to send almost like condolences to me and check on me. And at first I really didn't want to talk about it. I did not want to talk about it. I thought, you know what, this is really exhausting because discrimination and racism is something that I've lived with my entire life. It's something that my family, my parents, my dad taught us that it was a thing and that we would experience it and told us how to deal with it, which was work twice as hard, do what's right even more than anyone else. Even when you see your friends may not be doing what's right, you've got to do what's right because if you don't do what's right, the repercussions for you are going to be so much more. Those are things we grew up with. That's the things we know. It's not even like you don't get mad at it. You just know that that's like, if you want to survive, this is the paradigm you have to survive in. And my dad was always ingraining that into us. And not, like I said, as something to feel like a victim, but to have strength in that and to know that we just had to do more and that things in life wasn't fair, but these are the cards we were dealt. And then, and some of you already know this because you're on my mailing list, but then as we're having a family, we have a family call every Saturday. And as Sunday, we're having this family call, this Zoom call, we're talking about what had just happened. This is right after everything had started. And it came time for my nephew to speak. And we asked him what he thought about everything that happened with George Floyd. And what he said was that he said, it's just crazy to think that that I could leave and go play basketball with my friends and not come back. And then the question was, for him, what would you do if you did get, if you do get pulled over by the police, what will you do? And he so matter-of-factly talked about how he would comply, do what they say, not talk back, just do whatever they said, essentially. But hearing him say it so matter-of-factly, like it's just life, he's 14, it ripped me to the core. And that's when I woke up. Not that I wasn't woke. Trust me, I'm woke. But I woke up in the sense of, Roxanne, it's not about you. It's not about your life. It's not about your paradigm. It's about the chance, the glimmer of hope that maybe things can be better for my nephew. And so because of that, I do feel like I have to speak out. I have to answer the phone calls and have those conversations with so many of my friends who've just never even realized that this was going on. And they're trying to understand hundreds and hundreds of years of what's been going on all in one lump sum. So what do you do when you're going through these things and you're having a hard time and you have this awakening? Well, the first thing you do is you probably talk to your family, which I did. The second thing you do is you talk to your friends. And because of who I am and the way I've been raised, I have a diverse group of friends, a very diverse group of friends. And so it dawned on me as I had this like aha moment last week. I thought, oh my gosh, I know how I can do something. Like, what can you do, Roxanne? What can you do? What's your superpower in this realm, right? And I realized my superpower was to share some of my friends with you so that if you're looking around at your friends and you're thinking, wow, we all look the same and we have the same experiences, how are we supposed to get aware on these things? Well, I bring to you my friends. And I hope you'll take a listen. This is not meant to be a political podcast, and you hear me say that because this is not about politics. This is about humankind. This is about being equal and wanting things to be equal for everyone. And also, I want to say that I did not censor them. I let them say whatever. There is some profanity. I think there is. I think I remember some profanity inside this. So just know that. Cover the little ears. But I wanted my dear friends to talk openly about their experiences and to give you a glimpse. And so I hope you'll listen with an open heart and open mind. And please know, I would love to know your thoughts on this podcast. I'd love to know if you have questions, I'll be your person. Please just email me at roxannewilson.com. And of course, you can go to Roxtalks on Instagram, message me. Even if you can't stand it and it upsets you, I will listen to you because we're not going to get anywhere unless we listen to each other and we learn from each other. And so without further ado, I'd like you to meet my friends. Welcome to Roxtalks. This is what I like to call a very special episode. And if you grew up when I did, you know what that means. It's like an after-school special. So when we're recording this, ironically, it is currently going on TV right now as in life right now is George Floyd's funeral, which lets you know that what we're going to be talking about really is what's gone on in the world in the last week and a half. And I say the last week and a half, but I bet that some of the people that you're going to meet would tell you that this is not the first time, nor is it probably the last time this is going to happen. Anyhow, first of all, I want to introduce to you my special guests. These are all friends of mine for over 2 decades, maybe now. I don't want to do that math because that makes me sound kind of old. And I am. But people who are very special to me. And the reason that I invited them, just to give you a backstory, I was struggling in a real way and went through some very different emotions over the last week and a half. And then when I was really ready to talk about it, I thought, when things like this happen, who do you talk to? You go to your friends. Now, I realize that some of you may only have friends that look just like you, but I don't. And so I thought I would, just like you go to your friends, I'm going to my friends to have a real conversation. And for those of you who may be struggling because you realize, gosh, my friends all look the same, well, I'm going to lend my friends to you so you can have this discussion with them. So let me start just from the top. Tanya Ranko, a dear friend of mine and a beauty influencer, as well as just a juggernaut of a cacophony of things. I don't even know how to describe her, except she's my girl. She's my girl, and she believes in birthday years, not birthday months. So get that right if you're going to be her friend. Down below her is Daniel Ramirez. Daniel is my brother. He was the first person who found out and knew that I was auditioning for a reality show and actually followed me around for a week to record my video to get on said reality show. And since then, we have been brothers from another mother and father. And then I have the wonderful Sean Mayo, who I've actually known the longest on this panel. Sean and I met freshman year of college at the very conservative and wonderful Baylor University. And through to have a friend that long is amazing. And he was also my date to a dance, weren't you? There as well too. And just, he's wonderful. And I'm going to let them all tell them about yourself. That's all I'm going to say about them. But I want to start by let's start at the very beginning. And I want to ask you guys what emotions you felt when you found out what happened to George Floyd and what has happened to the world since then. And Tanya, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I mean, like everybody else, it was like pretty traumatic to see on TV like that. But I guess I'm in a little different ballpark because this is nothing new for me to see. My husband is he's very active in the civil rights attorney law stuff, and he defends people who have been wronged by the police. So I see these videos every week. So this was nothing new for me. Like I literally see these. I probably see 2 or 3 every week that he either posts on his social media or that I see from him that people have sent him. So for me, I don't want to say it's almost kind of like I feel like I'm almost desensitized from it, like just from the image of it. It's like, okay, here we go again, right? Like it's like the first time I saw it, I'm crying, and then after you see so many, and you just start to get mad. So yeah, like everybody else, I have a whole just drawer of emotions just from it, just from sheer frustration. And so, I understand people's anger. It's just, it really is. You get tired of seeing it, and you're just kind of like, okay, nothing ever going to be done, right? And the thing that's sad is that these are things that we're seeing because people have phones and cameras and stuff now, right? What about all those times that it happened when we didn't have that?
Yeah.
So, so this is nothing new, and it's for me personally, as as a Black female who who's had a cop stop me just because I'm Black. I understand that, and it's frustrating, and it just makes you angry as hell.
There's so much in there. First of all, I should have asked you, have you watched the video to its entirety?
I've watched the whole thing.
Okay. And you said something, I mean, you said a lot in there. And I want to, there's something you said at the end that I just want to ask you about. You said you've been stopped by the police because you're Black. How do you know that?
I just, I just, you just know. You just know. I was literally driving back from Houston, going through some small towns. I had gone to Houston to pick up a visa for my boss, and because he had an emergency that he was having to take a flight somewhere, and I needed to get his visa stuff done. So I actually had to go and pick it up. So I'm coming back. The cop is literally following me on this it's just some like random road. It's not like a highway. It's like in one of these like, little small towns. And he's literally following me, I kid you not, for 10 minutes. And then he stops me. We're going the same speed limit the whole time. And then he says, your license plate is on wrong. This is what he said. He followed me for 10 minutes because my license plate is on wrong. I said, oh, okay. And I said, and at the time I had a fairly new car. The dealership put my license plate on. That's what I told him. And he said, yeah, we're going to have you step out of the car for a license plate. And I said, oh, okay. And he was like, you don't have any drugs in the car, do you? Now, anybody who knows me knows I'm super OCD. You could eat off the floors in my car. There's never anything hanging around in my car. There's never anything that you literally can see. And again, this is a brand new car. So he says, well, we got to look in the trunk of your car. Now, this story makes my husband cringe, and he gets so angry with this story because he's like, you don't have to let them do that. My part of the story is what would have happened to me if I didn't let him do it, right? I'm on this like road that hardly any cars are on, and I'm a Black woman with 2 white cops. So the thing that's scary is the one cop is looking in my trunk, and I go over there to like stand close where I can see him. So the other cop says, no, you can't stand over there. So my fear is they're going to plant drugs in my car. So literally that didn't happen, thank God. So when I'm getting ready to leave, the cop says, sorry. He says, we get a lot of people that traffic drugs through here, so we have to be careful. So that's how
it's
I
always a
know.
story, right? It's always a story. They're looking for somebody who looks kind of maybe could be like you driving
Yeah.
the car that could be maybe kind of like the car you're driving.
Yeah.
It's always
I
the
had a
same
nice
story. That's why
car.
it's not shocking.
Or the
Yeah.
flip
And
side of the
literally he followed
story
me
is
for 2 minutes.
the flip side is, I want to say in my sophomore year in college, I was taking a junior class out of like Nowheresville, Kansas. I drove 95 miles an hour, maybe in a 40. I got pulled over. I made up a sob story, and I am embarrassed even to say this. I'm sorry, Mom. It was when you were having breast cancer, and I said that I needed to drop off my paper and get back to take care of my mom. He asked me, can I take the paper for you?
Wow.
Yeah, see, that's shocking to me.
Yeah.
No ticket, no warning. Can I take the paper for you?
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy's one word for it.
It's not surprising.
And the reason I asked you why or how you knew is because my dad said something to me last week and it really hit me. He's like, Roxanne, he said, Roxanne, for people who don't live with racism, it's hard for them to fathom that this is actually happening. And so when they hear someone say like, oh, they pulled me over because I'm Black, they can't even imagine what that would be. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute because they are not, that's just not their world. And so, I think about what happened over the last week and a half, and it's like, for you, Tanya, you said you see it often, and you've experienced it. And so it's like exhausting in a way. But I think for white America, is it okay if I call them white America? Sean, you're speaking for all white people right now. Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah.
I think that it's like when you get bleach, you're not supposed to use bleach it's in concentrate, right? You're supposed to water it down. And so for myself and for you, Tanya, and probably even for you, Daniel, it's like we've had watered down bleach for a long time. And so for whites who just didn't realize what's going on, it's like they had to drink the bleach like completely like concentrate. And they're like, and it's this huge shock. That's kind of how I see it.
And Tanya hit the nail on the head. And thank God for cameras.
Yeah.
It's like I have seen so many things even since the protest, which blows my mind. Wouldn't you think if you were a cop that you would be on good behavior right now? I hate to say that, but the mentality that they have continued, and then seeing the Buffalo police chief or whomever the person was who said they tripped.
Yeah.
Tripped. You wouldn't have tripped if you wouldn't have been pushed. And then even seeing our dear faithful leader trying to say it was Antifa. Who cares if it's Antifa? Last time I checked, we're never supposed to push anybody down.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah.
I just don't get this. Like, the thing that I'm hoping, and I know that we're probably all hoping, is like you asked Roxanne, like what our feelings were at the very beginning. And I think now I'm glad that we're 13 days later because my feelings are different. My eyes have been opened so much from white America. And what I'm hoping is with all the videos that people have seen, with all of the protesting peacefully, with the freaking white people that are breaking in and being the bad guys, with seeing police lay bricks down, wondering why riots happen, setting people up. Like, I was just like Tanya at first, where it was almost like the gun violence, where it's like, here we go again. I hate to compare it to that, but this actually has given me hope. Seeing Minneapolis actually potentially disband the police, seeing so many cities changing funding. It's like it's the first time that I feel hope. And being a gay man, I never thought that I would see marriage in my lifetime. And I can't believe like how quickly that has changed, but yet we are still stuck from 100 years ago in America. So I'm hoping this opens our freaking eyes. And it looks like incremental change is starting to happen. But it's so interesting still seeing people so naive that it is right there in your face and you still want to deny it. I'm like, what are you denying? It's so blatantly obvious.
Well, and I had this conversation because I didn't pick up my phone for a while because I just was not in the mood. I was not.
I could imagine how it was ringing off the hook.
Wait, what?
Everything.
Like 1, 2, 3, not it. And then I was like, okay, you have a nephew, you have 2 nephews and a niece. You should probably like get more active on this. And when I started picking up the phone, that was one of the conversations with, you know, as people are seeing people they've thought had a great heart and they put things on social media that just like in a moment like this, you're like, wait, what are you doing? And I had to say to them, like, you have to ask yourself if they're seeing the same things you're seeing. And it's like unedited. You can't talk about fake news. They're seeing the same thing you're seeing. And they've decided to pick apart certain things about and glom onto the character of this person who passed away, or all these things. Like, then you have to ask yourself, why are they spending so much time doing these rationalizations? And I mean, listen, I'm not going to fill in the blanks, not on a podcast, but you have to ask yourself, why? And at the end of the day, we have to realize that gone are the days where racism was something that was like, I'm going to call people bad names and I'm going to hang them up literally. But there's systemic racism and it's like hidden in plain sight. I do want to disclaim something very quickly. This is not meant to be a political podcast. That being said, I want you all to feel free to talk about whatever you want to talk about. But I just want people listening to know this is because really racial issues are not political. And if they are, then we should question why they shouldn't be. There should not be one political party who's pro-equality and one that is anti-equality. Everyone should be for equality. Daniel, what were you thinking when you saw what happened?
Well, it's going to sound cynical, and I apologize for how cynical it sounds. And I think it's even more cynical than the points we've heard before. I was thinking, is this the time? Is this finally the one that hits the tipping point? And it was horrifying. Obviously, the first reaction is, I can't believe I'm watching this. I can't believe that someone's recording it. I always think that. I'm like, how are you recording it? Like, how are you not so compelled? And then I understand there's 5 guys standing around. Of course you're not compelled to get in there and shove somebody off somebody when they're dying. However many, but
no, she's 17 years old.
Right. Again, even more so because they're invincible. Because at 17 I was invincible. But you're struck with, how are you recording? And then I thought, no, that is, you know, the Fifth Estate, that is the press, that is, you are heroic by documenting this thing. First thought. And then the second thought was, and this is so terrifying, but please don't let him have priors. Like that was the second thought. Please don't let him have priors, because they'll do the same thing that always happens. They will question the character of the person who is unjustly dying. And I thought, I don't want him to die. But watching, you already know he's dead.
$20 counterfeit.
Oh my gosh, I can't even.
Who calls the cops on that?
Like, have you checked your money lately? I haven't. I don't routinely check my money and be like, oh hey, is it real or is it counterfeit? I don't do that. They do that at the convenience store, which apparently they did, but I don't do that. I'm not routinely going around checking my money. And I kept thinking, is this the tipping point? Have we reached it? And I kept not being sure, because that's the thing. All of us are here because we've seen it. It's no surprise, really. This isn't shocking. And the litany, the 400 plus videos that are circulating right now are evidence to how not shocking this is. It's just, is this the time when somebody's going to say, okay, literally this is enough? And I had genuine hope that this was enough.
And do you think it is?
No.
Or is this Sandy Hook?
I wonder. I know you know how I feel about San Diego, but we're not political on this podcast. You know how I feel that we made it, that as a nation we're so numb that we fell into. I won't even say we consciously made a decision. We fell into a decision after Sandy Hook that no, it was never going to be enough. We were never going to actually be motivated to change with regard to gun violence.
I hate to say thank you for COVID, but I really believe that this put everybody have had enough.
Yeah.
And to actually put your lives on the line and go out there and protest.
During a pandemic.
Not once.
Multiple times, yeah.
So many times. And not just one city, worldwide.
But here's the other thing.
This is what's given me so much hope that this isn't a Sandy Hook, and that we've already seen a little bit of incremental change. Even seeing the House put together a police reform bill. I haven't read it, sorry. But it's like, to me, it's just seeing that saying potentially. I'm like, please God. But then major election. That's what I'm hoping. That was my entire hope when then said person got elected, that maybe we'll have a huge pendulum shift. And the entire time that this has been happening, I've just been like, this is it. Is this going to bring on reform for police, for Black Lives Matter, for minimum wage, for living wage, for social reform? It's like, potentially, you never know. And this is what my fingers are crossed. I'm like, if we actually get mail-in ballots and people have had enough. And that's, to me, is the other thing and I don't know if they're doing it. Why aren't people out there, and I'm hoping they are, getting everybody to register when you're at
They are.
They are.
God,
That's
thank
definitely
God, thank
happening.
God, thank God. Because I've heard everybody talking about register, vote, vote, vote. So I'm like, please God, let this be the pendulum swing.
And I
But
need to remind everyone that there are good police officers. And
oh yeah, 100%.
I just want to make sure, disclaim.
One of my best friends is.
But they operate in a
it's
system
so weird
that is
hearing
not,
in the unit too, it's
I'm
like
sorry, you can't say that with two Black people here. One of my best friends is Black. One of my best friends is a police officer.
No, I'm not saying.
I know
you were just saying there are good, and I was just saying.
I'm just saying it's a funny moniker, but yes,
there are good police officers out there, but here's the thing: not enough of them are speaking up.
Correct. That was the whole thing.
Quiet. So I can't even endorse that. Like, if you're a good cop, speak up against these bad cops.
Yeah.
Stop being quiet and protecting your own. And the other thing I'm sorry that I have to say is that it is irrelevant as to whether George Floyd was a criminal.
Correct.
Yeah. That is not even a factor. Even if he had just robbed the liquor store or a drugstore or whatever it was, that is not proper police protocol in how you arrest somebody.
Oh yeah, it's
so that's 100% the main issue here. So when I see people like posting, "Oh, well, he was a criminal anyway. He was a criminal." First of all, I'm not even going to get into that because I don't even know the whole facts of it. But I do know that that's not how police are supposed to act to arrest you.
Right. It's the elimination of due process.
And even if he was a criminal, time served.
Yeah,
you're done.
It's the elimination of due process, which is the fundamental breach of civil rights. That's exactly what we watched.
And let's be real, that's only rationalized when people don't want to admit what's happening.
Yeah, that's
what's happening. I have a question for each of you because each of you are a minority in some way. Would you agree?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So my question for you is, when was the first time that you experienced discrimination or racism? And Sean, we'll start with you.
I grew up in the beautiful land of Topeka, Kansas, home of Westboro Baptist Church and God Hates Fags. And not having any gay role models, or really not having them on TV, not even understanding what even gay could be. I was in 8th grade, and I've always had a weird back, and I was in basketball practice, and I remember doing cat-cow, and good old Mike Perkins, yes, I still remember you to this day, called me a fag. And I was just like, What's a fag? And again, thinking even about race, I kicked him. Like I did like a donkey kick and kicked him in the face, and he never said anything to me ever again. Not to say that I never experienced it again, tons of times, but it's so interesting even just talking about this, it's like I didn't even get in trouble. But that was, I would say 8th grade was the start of it, like going through the awkward change of when we're supposed to be flirting and all that jazz. I never understood anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then to have beer bottles thrown at me when all I did was kiss my boyfriend on the front porch, like what you do in the 60s. Not all gross, just kissed him on the front porch and had a beer bottle thrown at me in West Hollywood, of all places.
That's crazy.
I know. So it's totally different because for me, yes, you see it on my face sometimes, or when I talk with my expressions or my hand gestures, but I can hide it.
Mm-hmm.
I leave voicemails when I'm in finance, and I'll leave voicemails, and all of a sudden I'll be like, "Hey, Roxanne, this is Sean calling from," like I'll, or I'll, I can hide it. Ish.
It's funny you say that because I remember when I was young and when homosexuality was, people were talking about homosexuality and all these things. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, well, I know what it's like to be a Black person and to be discriminated against. And I think that most people wouldn't actually choose that.
Why would you? That always blows my mind. And again, like you guys with like everything else that you're seeing, it's like, yeah, I would love to get made fun of for all of my life and make life difficult. That's a good decision.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, surely homosexuality cannot be a choice because who chooses? Who says, I want to wake up and be persecuted on a daily basis?
Well, it is a fabulous life, but.
Well, yes, it is. Daniel, what about you? You're Latino.
Yeah, as a matter of fact.
Have you ever experienced racism, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I think it started in 7th or 8th grade. Obviously, middle school is when everybody's figuring out how to separate one another and figure out who their tribe is. I hate to be all mean girls about it, but it's a lot like that. And my nickname for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years through middle school and high school was Beaner. And in high school, when I played soccer, I had visions of wrapping my arms around the nickname, just because, hey, that's the nickname. That's how they refer to you, and it's funny, right? It's funny, right? And yeah, the harsher nicknames that follow, the wetback, the spick. Apologies to the audience for using such terms, but that came with the Beaner territory. So whenever they really just wanted to egg you on, middle school, high school locker room, that was the name. And in order to not fill with fury and rage, you let it go. Or I did. I don't know that everybody does. I think some people probably would have gone to fisticuffs over it, but.
Yeah. What about you, Tanya?
Yeah, I guess mine was elementary school. I got called the N-word all the time, but I would just beat people up. So, yeah, it started from then on. So it's just, you can not experience racism if you're Black and you live in Texas. And I'm from Texas. So I've been here all my life. So there's no way you can be a Black person in Texas and say you've never experienced racism.
Right. I grew up in Arizona. 2nd grade, Brian Venza called me the N-word on the playground. And I don't even know. And Tanya, like, how did you know that the N-word was a bad word back? Like, I'm trying to remember how I even knew that was a bad word, but I just knew that it cut me to the core.
You just knew. I think as kids, you just know from kind of how they look and how they say it, how they look when they say it, right? Because like I had heard that word all the time in my house. Like we would just automatically, a lot of, you'll find in the Black culture, like we just kind of say it to each other. But it was never like that, like how this girl said it to me. So I knew she meant it as a bad thing. So I think from then on, it was just kind of like, and also, it's kind of like it's almost kind of like it's kind of taught, but it's not in Black culture, is that a white person can't say it. Like you can't say, there's no way you can't say it. So I think like even just little growing up, like I knew that. Mm-hmm. And then the way she was saying it, I was like, oh no, this is not, she did not mean that as a compliment.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just knew.
Yeah. I don't know how I knew. It wasn't a word that I think I ever really remembered hearing. Mm-hmm. But I just knew. And I remember like getting on the bus crying to my older sister because I was so upset. But that's just the beginning of it, right? It's just the beginning.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. And that's just the beginning.
Your friends don't really understand. They're like, oh, that's mean, but they don't understand that. I mean, there's your hair looks like pubic hair. Why do you have pubic hair all over? Like that's just a normal thing that I dealt with in elementary school and on. And it's just, you deal with it. Now I have to ask you, I have a question for everyone, but I want to, on this, Tanya, question for you though, because you have grown up your husband is white. Mm-hmm. You've grown up in Texas, which Texas is not predominantly Black. So do you feel like at some point you had that survival mechanism where you just kind of deal with it?
Yeah, definitely. You definitely develop that. You just kind of, it's almost kind of like, and it's sad, it's like, it's going to happen. So it's almost kind of like you just stay ready for it, right?
Because you can't keep beating people up like you do on the playground. Yeah, I mean, you can't keep beating people up. So.
But it's just like you know what? It's almost kind of like you stay ready for it because it's going to happen. Or if you go into a store and somebody's going to look at you or follow you around the store or something like that. Like you just kind of know it's going to happen. And it's funny, like a couple of years ago when my husband's daughter experienced it, like at school, she was playing on the school playground with some other people this is middle school. And one of the girls, basically, it was two separate times, but one of the times somebody called her a monkey or a gorilla.
His daughter is Black. That would be helpful.
Yeah, my husband adopted two girls, they're sisters, and they're both Black. And she didn't know, she knew it didn't sound good because they were even like pulling up pictures of apes and was like, yeah, you do kind of look like that, right? So I remember her calling him, basically crying and saying, is this bad? Because she basically told him that that's racist. And they were like, no, it's not. You're always saying everything's racist. Well, my thing is like, well, stop saying stuff that's racist. Maybe I'll stop saying it, right? So, of course, he told her, yes, of course it was. And it went to school and it was a whole thing. But following that, one of her other friends was there playing on the playground. And I guess she had something. And she goes, yeah, I let's play slave and I can whip you like you're my slave. So my thing is, this falls back to your parents, right? Like this is stuff that's okay at home or that you see or you hear. I'm sorry. I mean, if parents get offended by this, but this does fall back on parents.
And Tanya, I need to pause you because I want everyone to realize that the story you just told us is like 2017. So this is not like when you and I were young, and it is in Austin area, Texas. This is not,
which is the liberal part of Texas,
right?
Yeah,
is it?
Well, I mean,
for Texas,
that's another conversation for another day.
Okay, all right, sorry.
Okay.
I'm off topic.
I'm off topic. If he was on this call.
But I want everyone to realize that happened literally 3 years ago.
Yeah. Well, and also the shocker to that is the child's mom was just like, it's just kids being kids.
Ooh.
I'm sorry, it's not. That's not. And there lies the problem. right? This is not kids being kids.
That's proof that racism is taught.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, it ended up being like it was a whole thing. It was on the news. It ended up being
National
just
news.
a whole thing.
It was a thing.
So that's my thing, is that like parents, like it's almost kind of like the white part, at least the white part of Texas, is just like, no, they've got blinders on. No, it doesn't exist. No. My kid says a racial slur to you, that's just kids being kids. Kids do stuff like that. That's how they think here.
Not that it matters. I'm just asking a question because I don't know if it's like how I grew up. I grew up with two twins, Damon and Shauna Wright, the only black people in the entire USD, I feel like, at my school. So were your kids part, or his kids part of, were they majority, minority, like only a couple like mine, where they just think it's fine and it's like white flight and they just leave the black community? Because that's what I feel like I've seen so much. And then all of a sudden, not that it's right, it's like you never see a black person ever. Again, I'm not saying it's right. I just, what type of school was it? Just so I can understand, like, even like that story is just so effed up.
Yeah, they both went to school in Georgetown. So, and there's definitely not a lot of black kids over there. You could probably count on like the black kids that do attend that school. Because it was a whole thing about with one of them when they had braids, and I think one of her braids was like kind of a red color or whatever. And the principal was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to send you home because your braid is red. Even though the little white girl sitting next to me, her hair is red. Like, yeah, so that ended up being a big thing too. So yeah, I mean, it's just, and it's also, and it's sad, right? It also sparks another conversation just about our school systems, and the people that we have in place, that, there's not enough, minority representation on the people that sit on these school boards and administrations. Because, a lot of that would change if we had that.
Yeah. Or how property tax is divided into different schools. That was one of the things that I was researching. I had no freaking clue. And in the white neighborhoods that do the Melrose or whatever, just to give them even more funding.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
But that's a whole different part. We could talk.
But the purpose of bringing that up was like, I was talking with Roxanne just about how much I've learned. And that's what it all comes down to, is learning about the redlining, learning about how every single time we're holding your community down. And I think from white America, ignorance is bliss, and that stinks to say. Yeah. And I think that's what's been so nice about the last 13 days, is seeing the mini clips of 2-minute things, because we don't have an attention span to actually freaking learn. But talking about the redlining, talking about the 13th Amendment, talking about prisons, talking about this, I had no clue. No clue. And that's sad. And to me, that also, what we were just talking about, education. My ex-husband grew up in Tennessee. When he talks about the Civil War, it's the war of Northern aggression. And the way he talks about it, I literally am not kidding you. I'm like, wait, I didn't learn that where I grew up. Like, everything you're talking about is like how great the South was. I'm like, that's not what happened in history. Yeah. Let's stop making up history, even in school. Why don't we?
But I think one of the things that I wanted to get back to, and you mentioned it earlier, is you said, in a scary way, thanks for COVID-19. The concept of the world is watching has been around since media began, right? But now we can pick and choose what we watch and when we watch, and we're all leading busy lives. We all are gainfully employed, I think, hopefully, and we don't have time to pay attention. We don't have time to learn. We don't have time to watch all that. We don't have.
We're too busy.
We are too busy to do all of the work. And then the world stopped. And this video of this horror hit. And it literally was, the world is watching, because we can't do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We're all stuck inside.
Perfect.
So yeah, we're going to be able to see this, and we're going to have the time to pay attention. I mean, is there anyone who could take the time out of their life, or would take the time out of their life pre-COVID-19 to read all of the anti-racism books, to watch all of the 2-minute videos? Are you kidding? We can't be bothered to watch a 2-minute video.
Look at Hulu, Netflix, Amazon now.
Right.
I can't tell you how many movies there are, and yeah.
So speaking of that, Netflix had something on we were watching this weekend. I don't even know what it was, but it was, I don't know what the name of it was, but it was the Rodney King. It was showing the video of Rodney King getting beaten. And what was really interesting is to think that back then that guy had a camera. Think about that. And he started recording.
One that was this big that he had to like.
It's true. We have come a long way in technology.
But when you talk about the camera and what a difference, like had he not had that big camera that he probably spent a pretty penny for back then, I'm guessing, and used that camera, think about what happened even then.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, that's
honest. I mean,
that's honest.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
To see that, and what was interesting though is to hear the facts of that case. I didn't even recall. I was young, so I remember it, but I did like the amount of times he was beaten and all, and it was just like, I'm surprised he lived through that. Let's be real. To even, it's interesting to see how far we've come and how far we haven't come. So sure, the camera is smaller.
But that's why I'm hoping with COVID, you know, like even what is so sad is Breonna Taylor, like there's only been 13 days, and how many people's birthdays or would have been birthdays have passed, you know, that we're able to continue the protest, continue the education, continue. That's, to me, the blessing and the double-edged sword of COVID, because obviously hitting your community the hardest. And like, this is what scares me too.
Yeah.
And we haven't heard anything about COVID. I read my first article today talking about it's finally on the rise, but it just makes me nervous too. But in the same regard, protest needs to happen.
So in sociology, back in college, freshman year, I remember learning, and it stuck with me, we like people like ourselves. That is like a fact. That is the theory, and I believe that it's true.
Gay communities, Chinatown, of course. We
like people like ourselves, which begs the question, because Scott grew up in Boston. Boston has a lot of whatever you want to call them, pockets, and it's very segregated. And he says to me, he believes at people's core, they desire to be segregated. What do y'all think about that?
I think learned.
Yeah.
That's what?
I don't think it's been.
I think that's learned. I genuinely think that is learned from the family dynamic. Your family typically looks, unless it is a mixed race family, looks a lot like you. And they gather together. And if you're Hispanic, your extended family gathers together. And guess what? They all look like you.
It is most absolutely learned. I just think I just grew up, and there's all kinds of racists in my family. I've just, like, we go to a family reunion, you don't know whose family reunion you're at. You don't know if you're at a Hispanic one, a black one, a white one. You literally don't know whose family reunion you at, because I've just that's been my whole life. So much so, I even remember like being in elementary school, like super, super, super young, coming home and telling my mom that I met like a new friend. And she said, "Are they black or white?" And I told her, I said, "I'll look tomorrow and let you know when I get back home." Literally could not tell you. Like, seriously, that's honestly the God's truth in how I grew up. So I just grew up just around so many different people. So I think the fact that, you know, people want to be around their own kind of thing. I think that's something you're taught at a young age, and that is just around you. Like,
Well,
I
I
don't
was
think
taught
I
that at
don't
an
think
old
that's
age.
really what people are like. You can put, little kids and babies in a room. They're not going to be like, I want to play with the little white girl. Like, they're going to all like play with each other.
Right.
That's just a fact.
So here's my thing, though. In a way, I feel like that gives me hope. If we like people like ourselves, then can't we just start, like, it sounds like, can't we just all start getting to know each other? Because we're not that different.
You know what? I will say it's comforting to find someone that's like you, right? So, for instance, like my son, my husband's girls, they hadn't been around a lot of Black people until like I came into his life. So, and then them going to like my family's house for like Christmas or Thanksgiving and stuff, it was different for them. And they even said that they liked seeing people that were like them. So, yeah, is there some comfort in that? Absolutely. Does that mean that that's the way it should be? No.
My niece, when she was 5, had my sister's best friend is Black, and they went over to each other's houses and they had their first play date. Laura came back home and Logan goes, Mom, she smells funny. And talking about parenting, like right there, you nip it in the bud. My sister was like, what do you mean by that? And she's like, well, she just smells different than me. And my sister was like, that's a great thing. Difference is beauty. And then what I love to see in Topeka, Kansas, my niece's 6-year-old birthday party had more people of color, and that just made my heart warm. Like thinking about what I grew up again. I had Damon and Shauna Wright and Debbie Baduri and Tammy Lay. Those were the 4 people of color that we had. To see my niece, 6 years old, have more people of color friends and just like, and Laura nip it in the bud. And it's just awesome. That's the hope that I see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But again, every parent, like when you see, I think Roxanne, you sent me the George Floyd challenge, those white boys that were doing that. What's wrong with you? Your parent. But then he also gives me hope about the other one who the guy dressed up as Antifa blew up that police car and his mama took him to the police station the next day. So it's like so you start to see some good. I know it's not moving fast enough, but I'm hoping this.
It has to be hard. Like I'm amazed. I haven't seen the videos, but apparently there's a young girl on TikTok from Louisiana who wants to disown her whole family because they're all racist and she does not believe it. And it's to be like 14 years old and you've been taught one thing and you're like, hey, that doesn't sit with me. Those people, like, I want to do a case study on them because that is amazing to me. Because I do think there's something to be said for sociology, and I think we're all like, if you're socialized to believe something, it's a lot easier to believe that thing, and so to go against that. But I hope that if we start having more conversations and we start getting to know each other more and each other's experiences, we'll realize we're not that different.
Well, if you want to learn about disowning, look into the gay world. Talk about being disowned all the time, especially the Black gay world.
Yeah.
True. Very true. Very true. Parting thoughts, because we could do this like all day long, but
we definitely could.
If you guys had one more word you'd want to say on the subject, what would it be? Daniel, go.
Pay attention. I think it is beholden on all of us to pay attention. Like it is more comfortable to ignore what is going on in the world. It is more comfortable to embrace the status quo and fight tooth and nail to keep it. I'm more comfortable when I don't have to watch videos. I'm more comfortable when I don't have to see police brutality. I'm more comfortable when I don't have to worry about socioeconomic differentials. But all of this is forcing me to pay attention. Like I have seen people who have wisely, and Roxanne, you were one of them at one point, who have wisely gone on media hiatus. I just can't. Okay, take that break, but come back to it. Things are going on, and we need eyes and hearts and souls and minds to pay attention, to watch these things and react, not be paralyzed into inaction. I mean, the only thing that needs to happen, I can't remember the exact quote, for evil to prosper is for good people to do nothing. Mm. So if the only thing we can do is pay attention, then that's what we should do. And I genuinely believe that the compassion that we all have is going to be roused to some form of action if we're just watching.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
My heart was racing before we started this, and not in an excitement, not going to lie. And what I think that we all need to do is have these conversations. Mm-hmm. Walk a mile in each other's shoes. Continue with the education, because I feel comfortable now. It wasn't bad. Like, I never thought it was going to be bad, but being the only white person on here was making me a little bit nervous.
So you understand Karen. You get Karen's apprehension to be here.
Hold up. Am I Karen?
Yes.
No, you are not Karen. But you get Karen's apprehension to be here.
The reality is, sadly, I am Karen.
You're Karen.
I am. And I'm hopefully a learning Karen. And what I hope that all the other Karens out there is just open your eyes, Karen. Just open your eyes.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm Karen. I'm Karen. But it's okay. Let's do this.
Like you guys have said, like there has been, some more awareness now over these past 2 weeks than there has been in the past, right? So I guess my hope is that this is not viewed as a trend, right? Because a lot of people have kind of posted, Black Lives Matter, blah, 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 all the cute little, all the fancy memes and stuff that are going around. But I guess I can't help but think people view it as kind of this is the trendy thing to do right now, right? And then it's just going to fall off. That's the thing, this momentum that's going on right now from people and the voices that are being heard has to continue in order for there to be long-term change to happen. And people have to continue to educate themselves. Stop going to your Black friends talking about what can I do. There's too much stuff online to show what you can do. There's too many things online so you can see what you can read and what you can look at. We do that for everything else we want to do in life. We want to make something. We pop up a video how to make it. All of a sudden now people don't know how to use the internet. And going to your Black friends, what can I do? So what you can do. And, and I urge just all the white community, especially the white community, that to actually speak up, we need those voices. We need more of those voices than we do my voice. So right now, in order to make any change. So that's my hope, is that this isn't just a trendy thing right now and it's going to fall off.
And that's what I've been hopeful for. Instead of the memes, what I've been seeing a lot of, at least on my white friends' pages, is not a meme. I've been seeing a lot of the police brutality videos. So more white people can see it, hopefully, is what that's doing. Because memes mean nothing. But to me, it's, I have to keep seeing it. We have to slap our Karens in the head over and over again. So I need to keep seeing it.
Yeah.
Drink the bleach.
Yeah.
I almost wasn't going to say anything, but I am. I struggled at the beginning of this because I consider myself an independent person. I can take care of myself, and to see that change can't happen unless a whole community that I am not part of does something was really like bothersome to me. And I had to humble myself through this and realize, yeah, I need the white community to say and to stand up and to do something if it's going to be better for my nephew. And so if you are wondering, like, what can I do? I'm okay with you bothering me now. The only reason I would say, like, the internet, please don't, like,
I'm calling you Rox.
You already did. Please, when you go to the internet, don't just find something that makes you feel better. Like, this is a moment that if you're finding those videos and that information that just makes you feel better, you have to ask yourself, is that the real information to be listening to? And that's what disheartens me when I see someone, and this is real life, it happened, it broke me this weekend, post something I'm not even going to say I'm not going to give name to the person who's spewing this information out there, but to say, oh, I found this person and look what she says. And she's so articulate. And so, yeah, this is what we should be thinking. Like, if you spend time on the internet and you find something that makes you feel better about yourself, you need to pause. Yeah. Go find your Black friends. Go
get uncomfortable.
Go talk to them and get some truth. Don't just assume that someone out there who's saying what makes you feel good in this moment has to be right.
Right.
This is not a fake news thing. This is a real thing that we're all living with. And if hearing it from people that you know and you trust, and I will be your person, even if I've never met you, I will be your person so that you can get real and get some clarity on this. I'm sorry that your rose-colored glasses have been removed.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to help you see. And I'm hoping that with your help, we can make a change and we can make a difference. And we can live in a world where we all love each other. We love everyone and everything is just rainbows and sunshine. Y'all, thank you. Seriously. I love you all dearly for who you are, and for just having the courage to get up here and say yes to coming on here and just being real and letting me share you with my listeners. So I love you dearly and thank you.
You're welcome. It was great. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Thanks for teaching Karen.
And I've read a few people who are like, oh, she knew what she was doing. She knew exactly what was going on. And she weaponized the most painful thing that she knew to weaponize, which was abject racism. And she slung it because she was afraid. So she pulled on the
Not even afraid. She was mad.
She might have been mad. Yeah, she did get called
scared.
out for
that. Was not a scare.
Okay, woman. She got called out for being wrong. Yeah, that's fair. She got called out for being wrong.
He could have died.
Yes, he could have.
He could have taken his life.
Yeah. So
don't you tell me my dog needs to be on a leash.
Oh my gosh, I know, right? And then she weaponized she armed a nuke in response, and her knowledge of that was frightening. But also not surprising, right? Is it any shock that she knew that weapon was in her bag?
No,
she told him, "I'm going to tell the police."
Oh my gosh, wasn't that
she knew it was a weapon? It was specific. Oh, Rox, how can I make my Karen parents watch this?
Well, I started recording again because it was so good. How can say, Mom, Dad? Guess what?
No, they'll watch it.